a lot of times we think that we have to do something big for God to work on our behalf. But he said he met me more than halfway. So if I take one step forward, he'll meet me there, because that's more than halfway on his part. It's less than the halfway mark on our part. And we don't always have to make it to the goal line that we thought we had to reach. We just have to move forward and be consistent in that movement in order for him to be able to move with us and show us which way to go and give us what it is that we need. So God met me more than halfway. He freed me from my anxious fears. And I always used to say, if I scoot, if I crawl, if I roll, if I jump, if I baby steps, big leaps, however I move forward, as long as I'm moving, God can do something with that.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. I'm excited with our guest that we have for you this week. This is a powerful woman, a woman that I definitely admire, and she's awesome. And it's a pleasure to have her here with us this week. Let's welcome to the show, Miss Altovise Pelzer. How you doing, Altovise?
I am doing great, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, man, now that I got a podcast of the year, I definitely want to bring in people that add value and add great content. And that's you. That's when I think of you. I think of your smile. I think of your joy that you always exuberate. I know what an amazing person you are. You're an amazing mother, speaker, business owner, very successful in business. But will you let the Daniel Gomez Inspires audience know who is Altovise Pelzer?
Oh, most definitely. So hello, Daniel Gomez Inspires listeners and audience. How are you guys doing? I am Altovise Pelzer, your voice manager. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. Host of the hashtag Speakeasy podcast, founder of the World Voice League, and founder of the hashtag Our Voice Matters blog. I am a mom of 4 amazing kids, 2 in high school and 2 in college. I'm super excited about what I do, and I'm an introvert, so you're going to hear some interesting things on this particular episode.
Well, I just love your smile. You're always smiling. You always exuberate that joy, and I really believe that a lot of people need to smile more in today's world, right? I just came back from Asia, and half the people in the airport look mad.
Oh my goodness. I had to go with my daughter to Colorado when she went, and I stayed for a week. And in the airport, you're just like, everybody's kind of like, they're either zoned out or completely miserable. And you're just like, oh man.
Well, you opened up with something interesting. You're a mother of 4, 2 in college and 2 in high school. How do you balance a successful business, Altovise, and then being a mother of 4? Talk to us about that, because I think nothing breaks my heart when we go and try to add value to some of these amazing men and women, and the first thing they have as an excuse of their kid, right? They can't do this because of their child, or they kind of put their scapegoat as their children. And how have you been able to have 4 amazing grown kids and have a successful podcast, speaking career, and business? How do you do that?
So it's been interesting for me, because a lot of times people focus on trying to balance everything out. And one of the things that I've learned is that there's always going to be something that gets less. So there's times where I shut things down and I focus on my children. There's times where I shut things down and I focus directly on my business. And it's always been, like that for a while. But I think this year really shifted some things for me, because this year I got really honest about what am I doing good, but I could be doing better at. And that included my interaction with my children. That included, what I was doing with them. And so I literally asked them, how am I doing? What needs to change? And of course, if you give them You give them a moment, they gonna take it. They're gonna definitely take it to be able to explain. Give them an ear. They'll take it. But I learned that there were things that I was lacking in. There was things that I wasn't showing up 100%. And one of the things earlier in this year that was said was that, well, Mom, you spent more time with us when you were working a full-time job than you are as a business owner. And one of the reasons why I had left a full-time job was because I said I wanted more freedom and time with my children. That was an ouch.
Wow. Boom. Pop. Wow. Y'all got to write that down. That is so powerful. Sometimes your kids have the wisdom, right? God speaks through a donkey in the Bible. And let me tell you, God can speak through your kids. And that's, wow. Your kids just kind of, I want to thank you for sharing that, Altovise, because that, you had to be real and transparent. And thank you for sharing that wisdom, because sometimes our children will let us know exactly what needs to be done, right?
Oh, yeah. They will not hold back. I did say this generation is one that you can't pull the wool over their eyes. They're asking questions. They're pushing up against things that are going on and dissecting things. And they're just not having it any old type of way. So they want, and it's crazy because they're having the conversations that we have amongst ourselves, but we're not getting the help for.
Yes. Well, this is the time in my episode that I want to tell my audience to take out your pen and paper. It's time to put pen and paper, because Altovise is going to drop some wisdom, and she already dropped some wisdom bombs. I hope we pick that up. She said she had to look at herself and realize, what am I doing good, but I could be doing better? And I want you to ask yourself that right now. What are you doing good? What are you doing okay in that you could be doing better? Because there's room for improvement in every area of our lives. And I'm speaking to myself on this, because if we settle for good, we're never going to achieve the greatness that God has for us. So let me ask you this, Altovise. I love that comment that you said, that word of wisdom. You were honest with yourself. What were two things that stood out to you that you were doing good and you were challenged to do better?
I was doing good in my business because I was making the connections. I needed to be better about following up and making conversions. Because one of the things in business is that we get stuck, and it's a change, it's a shift. I tell people there's several shifts that you go through as an entrepreneur. You go through the shift from employee to entrepreneur, but then you go through a shift from entrepreneur to small business owner, and there is a difference. And there's a mindset shift that has to happen when you go from entrepreneur to small business owner, because entrepreneur, I'm doing everything that I can with my own two hands. The small business owner, the nonprofit, those industries, those people that have built those companies, they're not doing everything on their own. They're utilizing teamwork and systems. And I wasn't doing that. So there was a lot of things that could have been automated that wasn't automated. I was still putting my hands on a lot of things. And I found myself spending a lot of time doing things that I could have delegated.
Yes, that's powerful. Why do you think so many people have why do they have a problem releasing that power and delegating? Why do you think that is?
Part of it is that side hustle mentality. The hustle mentality is a powerful thing. It drives you, it pushes you, it makes you get up when you've been knocked down, it makes you overcome small and big obstacles. But when you move into that small business owner mindset, it's not always about the hustle. It's about the impact. Because when I'm an entrepreneur, I'm trying to sell a lot of a low-cost item. Yes. When I'm in the small business owner mindset, I can sell a little bit of a higher cost item.
Yes. I love that, because whether you're selling a $5 product, it takes as much energy to sell a $5 product than it does a $100 product, $1,000 product, doesn't it?
Exactly.
But I love what you said, because I think many of us just listen to what Altovise said. You got to go from that employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset to that small business mindset. And it's a growth process. It's a process. And I see so many people that get into wanting to be a business owner, and right away they want to just run 100 miles an hour, and you can't. The hustle is good. I'm not saying you don't have to work, but there comes a time where you got to set back and evaluate and look at what process and procedures, what strategies can I put in place. And that's what Altovise is saying. So let me ask you this. What was one thing that you applied in this year that really has helped you in business, Altovise, that really we can share with the audience?
I got a VA.
You got a VA? Woo! There you go.
Woo! One of the things that was said to me this year, so I did a couple of things. One thing is I took the DISC assessment. I took it and I had my children take it as well. And it's just a personality assessment. So you know kind of where your strengths and weaknesses are. So that way you can you don't always have to get stronger in your weaknesses, but you need to be covered in your weaknesses. That's a whole other podcast episode. But you don't always have to be stronger in your weaker points. You just have to be covered. And so I know that I'm very relationship driven. But when it came to the business piece, there were things that were lacking, and I needed somebody that was a little more forceful. And so I connected with someone she's the opposite of who I am. And man, it made such a huge difference because I was able to cut off, the things that I was thinking, look at her perspective, jot things down, and then she's holding me accountable as well. And so it's like, okay, I see more movement happening now as opposed to what I've had in the past. And so that was really significant for me, is that shift. Getting the VA was part of that shift, because she was like, you have your hands on too many things and you can't do it all. So you need to invest in somebody on your team to do the things that you should not be doing. You need to be the face of the brand. You need to be the person out in the front. You need to be on the stages and on the podcast. And in order for you to do that at your fullest, at your highest capacity, you need a team of people working underneath you.
Are you speaking to me this morning, Altovise? Are you reading my mind or what? But that is so true. I think so many times for me, it's just, I think people look at the money that they're going to spend and they see it as a cost, and no, you got to see it as an investment in you. Think about this. Just think about what comes to mind right now. Just think about a Best Buy or a Walmart that they spend millions and millions of dollars on a building before they even sell one product, one TV. And that's the investment they make in the building. Then they start generating profits. And that's a business mentality, right? You got to do the foundation, set yourself up for that. And so many times, because we have that scarcity mindset, that lack mindset in business, that we don't want to invest in another person's wages because we see it as a cost, when in reality, it's going to free us up to really add the value where we add value at. Because I'll tell you what, I'm good at being the voice, I'm good at doing here, but this back office stuff, I hate it. But I still been doing it and I've let it go. But the moment I released it, just like with a good example is my podcast, I have a total production team for that. I don't have to worry about it. But so many times we want to edit this, do that. And it's not meant for me to do that. That's why you need to surround yourself with people that are capable and able to take you to another level. Would you agree with that?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I found that was what made this significant change for me this year, was that once I did that, I could go and focus on the networking. Even though as the introvert, I didn't like networking at first. I learned how to use it for me. I learned how to show up and network as me. Because, handing out 500 business cards was never a good thing for me. I didn't like it. They made me itch. I told y'all I was an introvert, y'all. So most times I would go to networking events and I would just sit there. And people are like coming up to you and giving you their elevator pitch and a business card and moving right on to the next person. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't like this environment. But here it is. Fast forward, just this week, I did 3 virtual networking events. adding over 100 people to my email list. And they were my target audience. Like
Yes.
it wasn't a second thought. It wasn't, oh, well, let me just get out in front of everybody. No, I was speaking directly to my target audience, making connections and being able to really elevate in a different way. Whereas before I would have been thinking about too many other things for me to, have the conversations I needed to have or have the time to even have those conversations.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. That's good. I'm glad you're sharing that because I think right now, especially right now in this season that we're in, is we need help. We all need help. And I think the biggest problem we have is asking for help. I know sometimes it's like, I can do it, but no, we need people to help us because no one has achieved greatness by themselves. And I think you'll agree with that. So let's shift a little bit here. Let me ask you this. You've been in business for many years already. And I want you to tell us the time when Altovise Pelzer lost her confidence. She wanted to give up on business, but she kept going. Talk to us. What comes to mind when I ask you that, right? When is the time that you wanted to give up? You lost your confidence in business, but what did you learn yourself in that season of your life?
It's actually one of my favorite stories about me because it relates to so many people, especially in everything that we've been going through in this current year. It relates to so many different people. And that was in 2015. I had a conversation with my oldest daughter about trust. And it was the first time that I had ever, said that, I had been molested as a child. And, we had this moment of, us just crying and kind of just holding each other's hands. And later on, I asked my daughter what was her most proud moment. And she said it was that moment. And it shifted something for me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to become the face of my brand. I'm going to go. I did and my first, my first photo shoot, I hated it. Introvert, hello. Even if I couldn't do it, the fake smile, it was horrible, y'all. But I did the first photo shoot. I did the website, put out like $700 for a website. Didn't have anything to sell on the website, but I said I was going to rebrand in 2016. Well, December 31st of 2015, I was evicted from my home. And here it is. I had all these things planned for 2016. The first book was supposed to be coming out, the rebrand of the business, and all of these things. And I'm evicted from my home, dragging my things out to the curb, putting all my stuff in storage, and staying in the second bedroom with 4 children, where we were either in the living room or the second bedroom of my sister's apartment. And I was devastated. I was broken. I felt like a failure. Here it is. I'm about to do this really phenomenal thing, right? I'm about to do this amazing thing, but I'm homeless. And it was a significant time for me because January 1st of 2016, I had a flight already planned. And I said, okay, am I going to take this flight or am I going to have my pity party? Now, prior to that, it would have been, I'm going to cancel it. Oh, woe is me. Nothing ever happens good for me. Things always end up falling apart. I give up. I quit. And for the first time, I said, you know what? I'm going to push through and I'm going to take this flight. And so I get to the airport, first flight, no problem. I get to my layover and on my ticket, there's no group number. Now I told you guys I'm an introvert, but I'm also a creative. So I can come up with stories in my head at the drop of a dime. In my mind, I had a fake ticket and I was going to be arrested. TSA was going to take me out, y'all. They was going to get me. But I made my way over to the booth. I let them know, hey, my group, there's no group number on my ticket. They said, no problem. Go in with group 2. And I said, all right, great. So I get in line and I get myself together, when they call group 2, and then I hear my name over the loudspeaker. So, I'm looking around to see if the little cart is coming with the TSA or are they coming down from a helicopter out on the launch pad, like out on the runway, like, oh, this is going to be horrible. And then I go back to the booth and they hand me a brand new ticket and it's first class.
Wow. You talk about God's favor. Woo!
Come on.
Man, that you know what comes to mind right there? That's just a testimony. Half a success is just showing up.
That's it.
Half a success
100%.
is just showing up. And ladies and gentlemen, you need to write that down. Think about this. I never knew this about Altovise till today, right now, and I've known her for many years. I never knew she was homeless. But at that pivotal moment, she didn't feel sorry for herself. She scraped herself off the bottom of the floor, homeless, and still took action despite her circumstances. And so many of us, how many times do we allow our circumstances to dictate the actions that we take? And she would have never received that first class ticket if she would have never shown up. Praise God. That's a testimony right there, Altovise.
Yes, indeed. And it shifted everything for me because 2016, I published 4 books. The first book I published while homeless, and I rebranded my business. I started speaking. I started, going and networking and being the face of my brand. And it started while I was still homeless.
Wow. So let me ask you this. What did you learn at that particular moment about yourself? I know you got on the flight. I know you pushed through, but what's one thing that you carry with you from that season of your life, that moment of your life right there?
What I carry with me is that I never know where my next is coming from. I don't know where an upgrade is coming. I don't know where a blessing is coming from. And if I allow myself to get distracted by my circumstances, then I'm no longer being led by vision. I'm being led by sight.
Yes. Wow. 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 So somebody out there right now, you're missing out on your first class ticket to life. You're missing out on your first class ticket to that next level that God has for you. But you're not even showing up. And what Altovise just said is, she just showed up, not knowing what, how, when, or who. But because the fact that she showed up, she pushed through the pain, she pushed through the embarrassment, I would say, of being homeless, but she still went anyways. So stop caring about the embarrassment and just show up and give something God to bless. Because once you show up, that's where the promotion happens. Because if we stay stuck in our rut, nothing ever is going to happen. You know what? I want to thank you, Altovise, for being honest and opening your heart, because I really feel that this part of what you're just saying right now in this episode is going to really open some people's eyes to just say what is possible, because it takes somebody genuine like you to open up their heart. And I never knew you were homeless. I really didn't. So thank you for being all in on this episode. I just really want to say that.
Oh, most definitely.
Let me ask you this. What makes Altovise distinctive? What makes her unique? What is it about you?
So I've always been the person that was the people pleaser. And when I made that shift in 2016, I made a decision that I was going to live for me. And it was funny because they started calling me the unicorn because I stood out in all the ways possible. I didn't look like a typical speaker. I didn't sound like a typical speaker. And people couldn't understand how every time I got on stage, I would be blowing people away. And they're just like, where did you come from? And I'm like, oh, I've been around.
The unicorn. Wow. Where did that come from?
Unicorn.
The unicorn.
That's been me. I've just stood out for a lot of right reasons. I show up and I serve in industries where people are, taking. I show up and serve. I show up and give. I lead by example. I'm always a heart-centered person. So I'm always thinking about trying to build and keep relationships. And in the industry that we're in, that's not always at the forefront. Sometimes that's like on the back burner, or the relationships are, you're in this section or in this group, or you can only reach this high. And I said, nah, I'm just going to, be friends with everybody. So, they always saw me at that, like that. And even when it came to, we would go out to events, I would be the one eating dessert first. as a grown woman. And so imagine the eyes that I would get from all of the people, those who were older than me and younger than me, looking at me at the table going, so you're just going to eat that carrot cake first? You're not going to eat your food first? No, I'm going to eat the carrot cake first because I really wanted the carrot cake. I don't really want what's on the rest of the food.
Now I know why I love you so much, because I'm the same way, right? I'm like, I don't know where we were at the other day. We were at the mall this past weekend, and I was like, man, I really want a cookie. My wife says, you haven't eaten? I'm like, yeah, but I still want a cookie.
Right? I'm like, oh my goodness. I think a few weeks ago, we were at, me and my sister were at the mall, and we walked past Cinnabon, and I was just like, let's go for it. And you got to get the icing. You got to get the nuts on top. And she's just looking at me like, oh, Lord.
So listen to what she said. Altovise just dropped a bomb right there, right? She doesn't worry about what other people say. She does what's important to her, and not in disrespecting other people, but it's okay to eat your dessert first. So stop allowing other people to dictate the steps, the actions that you take. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be distinctive. And that's what she's saying. So tell us a time in your life, Altovise, when you were the most challenged. When were you most challenged in your life? And talk to us about that moment, that season in your life.
So the time where I was most challenged in my life was when I had to make a shift from the community that I was very active in. I had to leave that community. And I had made a prayer over my business and over my life. And I just said, God, I want you to be the CEO of my business. And I did not know what that was going to mean. I did not know that meant things would possibly be flipped upside down on its axis and everything else. But I just said, you know what? I know that if I put it back in his hands, he can do far more with it than I can on my own. And it was crazy because, Daniel, in that time, you prayed over me and said, I don't know who keeps telling you 10x, 10x, but God can 60x it. And when you said it, it was confirmation of what, I had been praying over and praying for. And within a few months after that, the person completely let me go. They blocked me, had their team block me, and all types of other stuff. And I was just like devastated. And I never talked about it. But then you and I had some sessions where I actually went back and, would go through and, had to move forward and forgive without an apology. I had to move forward and forgive without them ever coming back or ever, stepping up and saying what it is that they did. And in that time, I had people coming to me. You have people when you're in a big community that'll say, okay, I saw that you're not there anymore. You'll have people that'll try to bring you drama. You'll have people that'll come and see that you left and they'll follow you. It's so many different angles and aspects to it. But because I'm not that person, I don't do a whole bunch of drama and things. I just let a bunch of it go. And it was hard because I had built some really strong relationships with some of the people who were a part of that community. I mean, praying with them, praying for them, calling to check on them, checking on their mom, all their children, like different things of that caliber. And so it hurt. It hurt like heck. And that challenged me because in that moment, I was being stretched. We always pray the prayer, enlarge my territory. Well, there has to be some stretching. There has to be some movement. Some things have to be uprooted. Even if you have a fence, the fence has to be uprooted and moved. And then something has to be added in order for it to cover and surround the bigger territory. And that was the season that he was taking me through. And it was the hardest thing for me because I had to separate my heart and business.
I want to just applaud you for being honest. Altovise is opening her heart. And I remember that this was over a year ago and I was blessed to be her coach for a while. And I remember that time because one thing I'll tell you that Altovise never did. She never gossiped. She never gossiped or talked bad about other people. And I think many of us in our lives and our businesses, we don't see that elevation, that growth, that scaling because we gossip and we talk about people. And I've never told you this, Altovise, but I admire that about you. And we're talking about it right now. And I want you to know that I admire the fact that never once did you really talk bad. You were hurt, but you did it in a way where it was like you kind of just owned it in a Christian way. And I truly believe that's why God's blessed you the way he has. And we don't realize that gossiping kills our dreams. And I'm talking to myself right now too, because sometimes as Christians, right, we use the word share. I want to share this with you. Well, sharing is gossiping.
True indeed, true indeed.
But I'm not laughing about it lightly. I'm just saying that we need to really learn from Altovise right now and realize that sometimes when you ask God to be the CEO of your business, and it's the best decision that I ever made, there's going to be things that are going to seem upside down, that are going to, what happened? How is this? Why is this happening? Well, it's because it's moving from the foundation that it was on to the new foundation of God being your CEO. And it's just an amazing feeling. And I think you can say that too, Altovise. So I want to just really say I admire you for being honest with us. I look up to you. I just want you to know that.
Thank you for saying that. It definitely means a lot, because I think in that moment, it was like, you get to that point where you're like, okay, can anybody else? I don't think there's any more space in my back for another knife. I don't think there's any more, like, I don't think my name can fit in anybody else's mouth at the moment. Can we just, can we just do where's the reset button? Where's the rewind button, the fast forward, something? But yeah, it definitely put me in a different position. And something that I found in that moment afterwards was that I actually had people who came back to following me and following my brand. And they had told me that because of that community that I was in, they had left.
Yes.
Because I was no longer sounding like who I was and who they had come to know me as. And so I did have people who came back and who, they're here and they're like, all for it, whatever you need. So it was definitely one of those points where I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't have the connections that I have right now if I had stayed. Or the other thing is sometimes something's being removed or the door has been closed for a reason. And we're standing and jiggling the door instead of walking into the next door. And so we're wasting time jiggling the door and trying to pick the lock and trying to unscrew the knob. And we're trying to figure out our way back into that room. And we don't need to be in that room.
Yeah. And I love that, because I want the audience to know right now, write this down. What Altovise just said, the environment she was in was influencing her to change her voice, who she was. So I have a question for you right now as you're listening to this podcast. Are the people you're surrounding yourself with, are they changing who you are at the core? Are they influencing you for their benefit in a negative way? And if they are, you have to be honest with yourself. It doesn't matter how much success or fame or money you get. If it goes against your morals, if it goes against who you are, you need to make a decision, because that's what Altovise did. So stop being yourself. Stop allowing yourself to be influenced by the people that you know ain't serving you, but it's just to be fitting in with the crowd. And it hurts. Believe me, Altovise, I definitely get it, because, there was a period in my life too when I made a big shift that it was just one of those things that you miss those people sometimes. But sometimes that for the bigger vision of what God has for you, you have to make those decisions and you do it. So let me ask you this. What is a scripture, a word of wisdom, or a quote that you lean on that just carries you when the going gets tough? Talk to us about that if you don't mind.
Oh my goodness. So my favorite scripture is Psalms 34:4 in the Message. And it's, God met me more than halfway. He freed me from my anxious fears. And it was so significant for me. And I always go back to it because a lot of times we think that we have to do something big for God to work on our behalf. But he said he met me more than halfway. So if I take a one step forward, he'll meet me there, because that's more than halfway on his part. It's less than the halfway mark on our part. And we don't always have to make it to the goal line that we thought we had to reach. We just have to move forward and be consistent in that movement in order for him to be able to move with us and show us which way to go and give us what it is that we need. So God met me more than halfway. He freed me from my anxious fears. And I always used to say, if I scoot, if I crawl, if I roll, if I jump, if I baby steps, big leaps, however I move forward, as long as I'm moving, God can do something with that.
Amen. Amen. Well, do me a big favor, because I know you bring a lot of wisdom. I want you to spend about a minute or so talking to that one person right now that's beaten down, it's going to give up. Talk to that male or female right now and let them know why they need to keep going forward.
One of the things that we often think is that whatever we're going through is the end. It hurts. It's a brick wall. And what we tend to do is we tend to take the bricks from that wall and we build up walls around our heart, walls around our creativity, walls around even our lungs and the breath that is within us. And it makes us hard to breathe at times. I want you to understand that even if you have to dismantle them brick by brick, it's time to take the wall down. And I know that that's difficult. I know that you may have trust issues. I know that you may have moments where it just seems very overwhelming. I've had moments where I wanted to pay for things and couldn't. I've had moments where my account was in the red. Even when I had to leave that community because I was working in that community, I lost about $13,000 of my income that year. And it hurts. But there is something even better on the other side. And so in this moment, it may be your darkest moment, but there is always going to be sun shining somewhere. There's always going to be a new day. So take it brick by brick. For some of you, you may be able to take a sledgehammer to it and just knock it all the way down. For others, it may mean brick by brick, and that's okay. Your process will be your process. But here's the thing. I want you to understand that when it gets to the point where you feel like you cannot remove the bricks, you can't remove the feeling of shame, you can't remove the feeling of depression, anxiety, you can't remove the feeling of failure, I need you to get help. I need you to step forward and seek counseling, talk to a mentor, talk to someone at your church. There are organizations to help, because no one has to live behind brick walls.
And boom, baby. I love that. No one has to live behind brick walls. No one. No one. I love that, man. That's powerful. So I love you, man. I love you, Altovise. How do we get a hold of you? If somebody wants to connect or just hear more of who you are, tell the audience, how do we get a hold of Altovise Pelzer?
Most definitely. So I would love to connect with you guys. Connect with me on LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn and put in World Voice League, my page, as well as the business page, will pop up. I want to connect with you there because I want to hear what it is that you have, that you're about to do. But also I want to know, did you hear me on Daniel Inspires? Did you hear me on here? If so, I want to hear how this particular episode really resonated with you. And then for those of you that are saying, you know what, I think I need a little bit more. I think I'm ready to take this to another level. I would definitely love to connect with you. If you go to bit.ly/talk to Altovise, you can come and get on the calendar and we can set up some time to talk. But it's all about the fact that you can be unmuted. It's time for your voice to be heard and for you to be able to move forward.
Man, thank you so much. I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure having you on our show. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I just want to know I admire you and I appreciate you as being an amazing woman. And this episode really touched my heart. If you loved it, we would love for you to join our Facebook group, Distinctive Syndicate. We have a lot more content, a lot more just words of encouragement and inspiration when it comes to life and business in our Facebook group. We would love for you to join our community. So come and join us on Facebook at Distinctive Syndicate, because you are unique and we are a community. We are a family. Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode. I would love for you to just join us next week as we come back with a new and an amazing guest here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Till next week, we'll see you then. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.